Yo, what is going on today, guys? It is Sam, better known as Samito. Welcome back to the channel for the ultimate Ramattra guide. We're going to try to have the best Ramattra guide out for you guys. I'm going to explain exactly where he's good and exactly where he's bad. Because to be honest, I think he's a middle-of-the-pack tank. He won't be hard meta, but there will absolutely be a lot of points where he can get value. I would say he's comparable to an Orisa right now, with less mobility options, but a better win condition, which is his ultimate. I will talk about that in a bit, but first, let's go over all of his abilities, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new. Alright, ability 1, just his primary fire, right? It does a decent amount of damage to hit the head, but it is a projectile that has a lot of, like, it's very hard to hit this from range. Like, look, for example, like, I'm not, obviously, the sim is teleporting around in my practice range 2.0 I've created, but, or I didn't create it, but it's an old replay code, and you can't really take Faras out of the sky either. Like, it moves pretty slowly, so, you know, again, range damage is going to be his hard counter. So on maps where range damage can be very good, you shouldn't be picking Ramattra. Ability number 2 is just a shield. You can put it up like a May wall, a pretty good range. It's got a wide range and a 15-second cooldown on it. You want to use that shield to close the distance on targets to set up your second ability, which I'm going to get into now. His second ability that you should use is called Nemesis Form. It basically gives you 150 extra armor and lets you do these energy wave attacks that have very limited range, right? As you can see, I'm not hitting that bot up there. It's very hard to use because your mobility is incredibly limited and you're kind of a sitting duck. I find it very easy to kill Ramattra in this form because look at how easy it is to dodge these, right? Like, you have to be right up in their grill. However, he does have a block ability which will reduce incoming damage in the form. Do not get caught doing it too much because unlike Doomfist, this block is actually kind of bad. You're just a sitting duck, and there's no way for you to close the distance on targets, and they can just run away from you, right? So that's where you're going to need his third ability, which I'm going to talk about now. Ramattra's third ability is called Ravenous Vortex, and what it does is it slows enemies and does a little bit of damage. It also pulls flyers out of the sky. So, for example, if I do this, it will pull the Pharah down, and it's going to slow enemies enough to where I can actually get in there and do damage with my punches. You got to be very careful with it, though, because, you know, it's very good in choke points, but you're not... It only pulls down from about, like, this height. Like, it's not going to get this guy here, I don't think. It gets the Widow, but look, the Pharah is just, like, way over it. As you can see, when this Widowmaker lands again, I'm going to show you when it starts to pull him down, which is generally about, like, right here. The good news is, though, it actually will stop his grapple hook. So watch, when he comes back in and tries to grapple away, it's going to cancel it. So when he spawns in, I'm going to drop it down. He grapples. Nope. Right back down on me. I'm in Nemesis form. He can't run away. It's very good to use in choke points to get extra ult charge. And speaking of his ult, this is where things get very good. His ultimate is the best part of his kit, and this will be what makes him viable. His ult is called Annihilation. It puts you into Nemesis form immediately, and it attaches these damage beams to any enemy that's within the area. As long as you have one of these beams attached to an enemy, your cooldown will not decay. This ult will last as long as you are doing something in the fight to enemies. So imagine this on a point like King's Row, Nepal Village, Lijiang Tower. It's almost a free cap. Unless you have really good healers, like, to close out a fight, this ult is going to be incredibly strong. You can also do your damage in your Nemesis form. You can block, and this is where blocking is going to be okay to play your life, because as you can see, like, right now, your block is actually, like, you're still doing something while blocking, right? Like, you're gaining something while blocking on the point. So this is where it's going to be okay to block. Try to do this close-up damage. You can slow enemies down if you need to, and this is what gives him a massive point presence. So your goal as Ramattra is to get your ult and get it on the point. That is your best win condition. Your mid-fight, honestly, is very underwhelming. You don't have the range or the mobility to contest range damage. So your positioning and how you set up is going to be incredibly important, right? But those are all of his abilities. Let's get into some gameplay now, and I'm going to explain how to use his cooldown so that you can get value on Ramattra. Let's get right into the action. All right, so as you can see on this map, we actually struggled quite a bit on Ramattra, right? Like, the problem is they had, like, flats on Widow in the back of the map and a bunch of other stuff, so it's very hard to close the distance. I want you to look at how I handle this fight when I finally build up my ultimate. So we're going to end up walking in here. I'm going to turn the sound down quite a bit. Look at how we engage here. I'm trying to poke out the Widow, and I use my shield on the range damage. Again, the cooldown cycle goes as follows. You want to look to start out with your shield because that's your longest cooldown, right? Your secondary cooldowns will buy you time until your shield comes back. So we shield the Widow, walk in, poking at the Widow. I ignore the Ramattra. I'm not going to shoot at him, right? I use my slow to try to split their team and make him not peek. Then I pop my Nemesis form and my ultimate. And after I've split them, I force their Sojourn left after shielding and poking the Widow back. Ravenous Vortex the mid, which I think I could have held this a little bit longer. And look at what we do with this ultimate. Ready? They use their Kitsune on point. And Kitsune being the best ult in the game, Ram ult is very good into it. Because if they want to fight in Kitsune while you ult, you are going to be ulting permanently. So your ult is going to outlast the Kitsune. So we chase down the Kiri, and as you can see, this is why I think he's weak. He really struggles to chase down the targets in Nemesis form. I think they need to look to do something about his mobility. But we get the Kiri, and then I just start chasing down the Mercy to keep my ult up. And as you can see, that's where he can be very good. Then we lose our ult very quickly. We start shooting flats on Widow, and that's a clean little 5K, right? So we got my shield back to get out here. I pop Nemesis. I think I end up dying here. And as you can see, this is why I think the hero's kind of bad. Like, compared to other tanks, if the only way you have to survive is just to sit there and get shot while you can't do anything yourself and you aren't getting any benefit from negating damage, like, one thing I suggested was a movement speed reduction penalty, right? So, like, for example, if you block a lot of damage, maybe his movement speed penalty goes down a little bit so you can get back up to normal movement speed. Because I won't lie, on maps that have these really long range angles, he's not going to be very good unless you have help from your team. While other tanks like Sigma, other tanks like even Doomfist, other tanks like Hog, they can just vape and run away, right? But Ram can't really do that. So that cooldown cycle is really important. So let's take a look at this cooldown cycle again on this point. Ready? I see the Ana in the back. So what I'm going to do is I try to shield her. I miss her, unfortunately. I shield a little bit too far. But my objective is to shield her so that he can't get healing from her and then aggress and take space. After I use the shield, I then go into my Nemesis form. But as you can see, they're Ramattra ults, and we just speed away. You do not want to fight this ultimate. They nanoed it and tried to get away. It just did not work. So we look to go back in. My cooldowns are almost back. I have my shield up and ready to go. So I shield in between their teams so I can cross in. Then I slow and split them up top here. Right? Pop the Nemesis form next. I've got my block ready, and we try to split off the Sojourn. Look what we can do. He's one shot. He dies. And then as I'm exiting my Nemesis form, I back up, right? I back up a little bit because I can't stay in and fight. I use my shield to buy myself some time, and by the time my shield is gone, my Nemesis form, if I had used it before Ravenous Vortex, would be back in about like 1 or 2 seconds. So I use my Ravenous Vortex, back up and play slow until my Nemesis form comes back up. And then when Nemesis form comes back, I'm looking to aggress here in a second. So I'm shooting at him, I'm going to slow the Ana, shield her off, go in the Nemesis form, right? We get hacked. I pop the ult to close out the point, and this is where the ult is really good, guys. That is how you play him. It's his best win condition. You shield to get space, use Nemesis form after your shield goes down to buy you 7 seconds for your shield to come back until you build your ultimate. Then when you get your ultimate, you just take that ultimate to the point and just force the brawl on the point. That is the best way to play this character. It's going to close out the fights, as you can see. Oh my God. Wait, it auto-cancels hack. So when Flats came out of stealth to try to hack me, he literally couldn't do anything in my ult. The only way that you can make Ramattra useless with his ultimate is if you force the ultimate before he gets to the point. If you get to the point with your ultimate in a situation like this, and this is why I think the hero will be playable, you will win. And that's your goal. Shield in, buy time for Nemesis form. When your shield drops, pop the Nemesis form with the space you've gotten. Look to Ravenous Vortex, slow somebody into Nemesis form, and then when the Nemesis form is wearing off, you're starting to back off if you can't win the fight and wait for your next shield. Rinse, repeat, build ult, get to the point with your ult, win the game. Another example about how to win a fight and where Ramattra really excels. And the reason why I'm showing you guys Echo Copies is because Echo Copy is just a worse version of what the actual hero would be able to do. Because the actual hero would be able to do this infinitely with better health, right? So take a look at what we're going to do here. Ready? I'm going to build up my copy. I'm going to try to copy him again and see if we can get something done. So I copy the Ramattra and I mess up my cooldown here. I should shield first here to block off the damage, but I Vortex first. So I used my cooldowns wrong. What I should have done is I should have vortexed this choke second after my shield to split their team. So we build up the ult here. We pressure out the Moira, the squishy, and force the fade. Pop the Nemesis form, and then use my ult on the point, right? After I get my ult up on the point, imagine I'm regular Ramattra. I would have 150 more health, right? And infinite time duration here to close out this fight. So I just walk at the soldier, start putting out the damage, and notice how I'm not blocking unless I get down to 1 HP, and I absolutely have to block. But if you block, they're just going to run away, right? So pretty much what you need to do after that is just like try to walk towards these people. You'd have more health to play much more aggressively, but they just walk away. And we close out that fight, right? So let's look at this cooldown cycle again and kind of like what I did wrong, what I could do better, right? Let's just see how this fight ends up, and I think we end up getting them all. Do we? Do I kill Tracer here? I think I do, yeah. So let's recap one more time what you should do. As Ramattra, you should start the fight on like a corner or something where you can strafe out the hide from damage. Instead of Vortex, shield the corner so you can peek it aggressively to force cooldowns early. I force Boger's Nemesis. I start shooting the Moira to force her fade, right? Because I can get away with that greedy cooldown. We lose our Ramattra, right? So then I pop Nemesis form on the point. Get my ult off after I force cooldowns, and I force his engage early here, right? So after I force the cooldowns, they have nothing left. I ult the point. We close it out. If I'm playing normal Ramattra, we would be able to win. So again, look at this cycle. I really want to hammer this home for you guys because this is the win con, okay? You would want to start up on this corner where you're not taking poke, like where Metro shielded here. Look at this. He's still going to get sprayed from the side. They're just going to be able to walk past it, and he's not in cover, right? But where I position, no offense, Metro, I'm not trying to flame you. See how he just gets blown up from both sides? We pop the Valk. I shield the corner. Poked him out. So see how they can't pressure me here at all? Like, look, I make the soldier run all the way around. Force the fade in the meantime. Nemesis form. Ult. They don't have cooldowns. We close out the fight. That is going to be the #1 thing that allows this hero to be picked. You need to do that if you want to get value on this hero, because the rest of his kit is just not that good, to be totally honest with you. I hope that this helped you understand Ramattra a bit better. Again, he's not really a hero that you can hard force on the wrong maps, but in the right situation, he can absolutely be a valuable character. So I hope you learned something. We can do more guides down the line. Thanks for watching, and go enjoy the game. See y'all later.